Welcome to the Retire with Peace podcast, the podcast where we help you create a fulfilling and stress-free retirement. Each week, we bring you expert advice, practical tips, and inspiring stories to help you plan and live your best retirement life. Whether you're nearing retirement or already enjoying your golden years, this podcast is here to support you every step of the way. Let's embark on this journey together and discover how to retire with peace.
Welcome back to the Retire with Peace podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dave Zaegel, and today's episode is brought to you by CWOs for Hire, which is the financial planning firm that I co-own, where we focus on retirement and tax planning. This is the time of year where we will bring on some new clients. That doesn't happen year-round, otherwise that'd be a mess. So there are different seasons in which we bring on new clients. So if you are looking for help with your retirement planning, please feel free to give us a call. We can have a discussion about what you're looking for and whether or not it's a good fit for us to work together. Let's talk about elections. I don't even like talking and dealing with politics that much, but let's talk about elections and how it impacts planning and investments. And the short answer is, not much. But let's talk about why. Because there's a lot of anxiety and fear and frustration around the upcoming elections, as there are every time. This seems to be a little bit more heightened than usual, probably just given the circumstances and who's involved. But I just want to give a little bit of a public announcement, public reminder that this happens every 4 years. And we've been fine every 4 years. It may have been a little bit chaotic. Sometimes the election has gone on through January to decide who the winner is. So it's always been a little interesting. At times it's been a challenge, and there's been some things to consider afterwards. But every single time, it has been just fine for investments, just fine for planning. And if we control what we can control in the planning process, then we can just be just fine with the outcome, because we can react then to whatever changes there are. Now, when the elections are coming up, the candidates always have lots of different promises and quote unquote plans, which are usually just loosely formed ideas and not actually put into some sort of formal plan. So there's a lot of things that are said, discussed, promised, and they don't tend to happen, at least not fully. Let's take a look at the last 3 new presidents and what they wanted to really get accomplished. What was the big focus and what was the end result? And again, this is not political. I really don't care about any of that junk, but I'm just pointing out the fact that even though each of the last 3 presidents had their own party controlling Congress, they still did not fully achieve everything that they wanted to. If we look at Biden, there was a big $3 trillion spending package that they were trying to get through. Didn't happen. There still was a spending package that was pretty significant, but nowhere near what they were trying to pass with the $3 trillion spending package. So again, in all these instances, it's not that nothing happened. It's just that they did not fully get what they wanted to and what they were talking about when they became president, even though they had control over their own party in Congress. So that was Biden's example. Then we can go back to Trump and say, okay, well, what was their main agenda? People think about the tax cuts because that's what actually happened. But really the big thing that they were trying to get done was repealing Obamacare. And that did not happen. And so they quickly scrambled and switched to the tax cuts, which again happened very, very quickly because they wanted to get that done. They wanted that win. So in that instance, it was something totally different that got done versus the initial agenda of repealing Obamacare. And there's a big dramatic vote on that made it so that did not happen. But then we can go back even to Obama and say, well, what was the big agenda there? Well, one of the big pieces was on healthcare, which clearly there were some big changes. But really what they wanted to do, and I'm not making this up, you can go back and look it up and look at all the documentation on this. They weren't calling it universal health care at that moment, but what they were wanting to do was get everybody out of the employer-based health insurance and into a government-controlled or government-focused insurance. Obviously, that did not happen because there's lots of employer plans still remaining. So they didn't take it as far as they initially wanted to, again, even though they had control of Congress. And they got something that was still significant, but not quite what they were planning on. So I bring up those three examples. I'm not going to go all the way back to George W. Bush, because I don't even remember exactly what the main agenda was at that point in time. But as I think back to the last three, which are pretty recent history in the past 15, 16 years, each time the president had control of, they didn't have control of Congress. Their party had control of Congress and still were not able to fully accomplish what they wanted to do. So as we hear candidates talk about these things, we have to understand that it's not going to all happen, and it might not happen at all if a different party is controlling Congress or if Congress is split. So there's just a lot of just so much fear about what people say they want or what they're planning on, even though it's not really a plan, that people will hold back on their investments. They'll make different decisions in their lives and all this other stuff for things that haven't even happened yet. And they might not even happen or come close to even happening. So, moral of the story is just go live your life. It's not that politics aren't important. We should absolutely be involved. Please go vote. Do all those things. That's great. Do not upend your life or change your retirement plan or do something crazy because one person said something that they might do if they get into office, if they have enough votes from their party, from Congress to actually then maybe get it done. Like that, it makes no sense. Go live your life, go vote. I'll say it again, go vote. Definitely get out there and be involved in politics. But from a planning perspective, when we talk about retiring with peace, take that anxiety level down a bit and realize that we're in a good situation. We've been in a good situation for a long time. Where there are good people out there who will make sure that good things happen. I talk about this all the time with when people ask about stocks specifically, and well, what will happen if the economy tanks? You know, is everything gonna crash and crumble? And I remind them that there are executives and workers at these companies who, when things don't go their way, they still get out of bed and they say, let's solve this. So that's going to happen for the country. That's going to happen for our companies we're with. That's going to happen for our families. The good people are going to get up and say, let's figure this out. So don't freak out. Don't change your life. Continue living. Again, go vote. But don't just upend your plans and freak out and pull all your money out of the stock market and do all these things. It's a waste of time. It'll probably cost you money to do this. It's probably not good for your plan. So control what you can control in terms of your spending, your budget, how you invest, how we do our tax planning, all the things that we talk about on this podcast. Control those things. Ease your mind knowing that you have controlled what you can control. Whatever happens politically will happen, and it usually kind of flips back and forth over the years anyway. If we can avoid disaster, that's the key. That's what we want to avoid. But realize that everything works out in time. There are good people out there that are going to make sure it works out. You control what you can control. When we're working with clients, we're going to help them control what they can control. That's really the focus, is don't get too freaked out on the elections and politics and whatever inflation announcements and other economic announcements come out of this. We have weathered quite a bit in terms of COVID and the great financial crisis and all sorts of things over the past couple of decades. Different wars, just you can go down the list of things that we have come through and come through in a very positive way. Not perfect, but we know how to handle ourselves and make sure that life goes on and that we are happy and healthy. And as long as we're controlling what we can control and control the thoughts that go through our mind, we can live a happy and healthy life and retire with peace. So that's the message today. Control your thoughts, control your mind, control what you can control. Certainly get involved in politics, but take the anxiety and stress and fear down as much as possible. It's going to help you retire with peace. If you can get your mind at peace, not worry so much about the what ifs, and just focus on what it is that you can control. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode. I really appreciate your support and hope you found value in the conversation. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Your feedback helps keep the show growing. Until next time, take care and stay strong as we learn to retire with peace.